quotation is from George Washington Carver, where there is no vision, there is no hope. I'd forgotten that he said that. He said that. I think a lot of other people have also said that. The son of Timaeus. Bar means son. Timaeus means Timaeus. Okay, so Bar Timaeus is blind. And there aren't many employment options in Jericho at that time for blind men. So he works as a roadside beggar. But all of this changes on this particular day. The son of David, Jesus Bar David, is in town. He is surrounded by a crowd of followers, moving through the streets on the way to the town gate, with much hubbub, so it's hard to miss him even when you're blind. Something's going on. Bartimaeus decides to make a radical change in his life and move on from his roadside business. He shouts at Jesus and continues to shout, even when people are trying to shush him up. He shouts as if he's trying to reach the ears of God with his own hubbub. And Jesus comes to a halt, with those behind him barely able to stop in time before running him over, just like in those old movies. Jesus not only stops walking, he stands still. He stands still. Listening to one voice, waiting for someone's son to defy those who would silence him, to throw off his old life and move toward hope. He stands still. He waits. And then he invites. Call him here. Bartimaeus, without hesitation, sheds his beggar's uniform and leaps toward Bar David. Not unlike Santa with a child on his lap, Jesus asks, "What do you want me to do for you? What do you want for Christmas, son?" And Bartimaeus, not unlike a child at Santa's village, says, "My teacher, let me see again." He claims Jesus as his rabbi, my teacher, and in one last moment of beggary, asks for vision. His wish is granted. His physical ability now matches his inner ability to see his way forward. And his new life begins, not there, not in Jericho, but on the road, on pilgrimage with his rabbi. It's interesting that Bartimaeus doesn't even ask where Jesus is going. Once he can see, he trusts that the journey and the destination will be worth it. Whatever happens, it's got to be better than sitting blind in Jericho, begging for a living. And the evidence of God's presence is clear. Bar Tim has been called. He has heard the call in spite of the din in the street, and he answers. So if we take this a step further, having vision doesn't mean we have a clue about where we're going. Seeing our way forward is a matter of having the courage to get up, ask for what we need. That's a hard one for me. Ask for what we need, choose our teachers, and take the next step with her or him or them. It means taking the next step in a direction we trust with people we trust. It means sensing the presence and the call of the one who made us and making the changes necessary to move on. Everybody loves change, right? Woohoo! Right, change. Making the changes necessary to move on. That was a hard one when he sold the building. That was a hard one. Nate Lewis, old friend of ours, a member of Pasadena UCC for my entire life, worked for FEMA. When the Midwest experienced massive flooding in the 1990s, Nate was at a rural relief center working at a table with a local representative, and the rep looked up as a farmer came over to the table looking rather haggard. He asked, "How are you doing, Sam?" And the farmer replied, "Well, I'm standing up and I'm facing in the right direction." Sometimes that's all you can ask for. I'm standing up and I'm facing in the right direction. And we may be hearing a lot of stories like that out of Mexico. in the next few days and weeks after that Hurricane Patricia. May they stand and begin again. Seeing our way forward is not only taking the next first step, or the first next step, however you want to put it. It includes a process of ongoing discernment. When I got here 2 years ago, I was asked to help you guys. We became like one body, and I was supposed to help you discern where you were going. Not that you were milling around in circles or anything, but where are we headed? You were standing up, but you weren't sure you were facing in the right direction. So we had those congregational conversations. We experimented with a plethora of worship styles. We've ended up with sort of a more relaxed version of what we had. Nobody really wanted that Quaker service every Sunday for some reason. I don't know why. We couldn't decide on a particular social issue to focus on, but we found enthusiasm and focus around creating quality public service announcements for social media. And that way we could include all of our social concerns, because we could do one for everything in the world, hoping to create culture shift and increase compassion in the world. Fred experimented with a teen tent and found new ways to keep our young people engaged with the church, an experiment that's been carried forward by Mary, Carol, and Carolyn, and we're experiencing and experimenting with new forms of leadership in organizations. Some of you may or may not have read our new bylaws. Anybody like to sit down and read bylaws? Okay, well, we have a relatively new way of leading this organization, and it's kind of interesting. And some of it is working, and some of it isn't. Okay? And we're looking at different ways of funding and special projects, and we've had success and failure, and we're hoping to improve as we move forward. And we continue to evaluate and discern next steps by reflecting together on texts and stories, by engaging in very unusual projects. I bet none of you thought 2 years ago we'd end up at Burning Man creating footage so that we could make PSAs, right? And doing amazing things with that experience. I want all of you to go to Burning Man next year. Okay, we'll all go. That's a little bit of a joke, but it would be kind of cool if we went as a whole congregation. Okay. And we've been inviting a host of interesting guest speakers to come to expand our thinking, that rainbow thinking that we have, and increase our creativity and self-compassion by using tools like Soul Collage today. And interchurch collaboration, that jazz service over at the Glendale Church, that's phenomenal. That's wonderful. And varieties of online communication to strengthen our forward movement with each other and others. So in many ways right now, we're renewing our decision to continue on this pilgrimage together wherever it may lead us. Right? You're still here. You're still here. We're renewing our decision. This is the season, this fall, in which we renew financial pledges and decide how best to serve and lead this community for the coming year. It's the time of year where we intensify our care for those in our neighborhoods who face exposure to darkness and colder weather. This is the time in our lives when we reevaluate our vocational trajectories. We tweak and reestablish our core values. We add to and reprioritize our bucket lists. You got one? Got a bucket list? Dad and I were talking about that the other day. Got to reprioritize some things. And light more candles and focus on hope. That's what we do at this time of year. If Bartimaeus had had no hope, he would not have called out or leapt up or asked for vision. If that Midwestern farmer had had no hope, he would not have approached the FEMA table to see how he might work his way out of that disaster. If Matt Hollywood had no hope, this congregation would never have sold its building, found a new place to gather, hired a minister, and began to plan for a new future. And with no hope, what happens? Dictators remain in power, and elections are handed over to corporations. With no hope, we settle for low wages and endure chronic suffering, and offer no resistance to creeping social ills. With no hope, we self-medicate, at least I know I do, and give up on relationships and resist change in any form. With no hope, there is no vision, and the people perish. there's no hope, and the people perish. It goes both ways. And we can't have that. So as we seek our way forward, let's cultivate hope. In this oncoming season of darkness, let's increase the light. On this pilgrimage to the manger and beyond, let's recognize each other's courage and share our insights with one another and piece together a shared vision for the future. Let's lean on God when we need to and partner with God when we can. And let's remember, and this is a final sentence that is especially for me because I forget, and it's Joe who always reminds me of this. Let's remember that God is not just a cosmic force to be reckoned with. I love those Hubble space photographs. But that's not all that God is. God is also that rabbi, standing still in the roadway, listening for our voice, and ready to respond when we ask for it.